I'm 78 years old. I know because I check the number more often now, like it might slip away if I don't look at it straight on. At this age, time doesn't feel like it's moving fast. It feels like it's already gone, and I'm standing in what's left of it, trying to understand how I got here. I don't have a terminal diagnosis, nothing dramatic like that. My body is just tired in a way that doesn't bounce back anymore. My mornings are slower. My nights are longer. And there's a quiet understanding that I'm closer to the end than the beginning, whether I like that thought or not. People hear that and assume I'm here to give wisdom, like I figured something out that everyone else hasn't yet. The truth is harder than that. Most of what I know now came from not knowing it when it mattered. When I was younger, I believed life would eventually settle, that there would be a point where things made sense, where the effort matched the reward, where I could finally rest without guilt. I kept waiting for that point, like it was a station the train would eventually stop at. I grew up practical, that's the kind word for it. My parents believed in keeping your head down, doing what needed to be done, not asking for too much. Love wasn't loud in our house, but responsibility was. You didn't talk about feelings. You handled things. So I did. I married young because it seemed like the right step. Not because I was swept away, but because it was time. He was steady, kind enough. We built a life that looked respectable from the outside. A house, children, a routine that filled the days. I told myself that was happiness, or close enough. In my 30s, I was always tired. I don't mean physically, though that too. I was tired in my bones from trying to do everything right. I packed lunches, balanced budgets, showed up to events, remembered birthdays. I was reliable. People counted on me. I wore that like proof that I was doing something worthwhile. What I didn't do was ask myself what I wanted. That felt selfish, dangerous. Even wanting things was how people got disappointed. So I focused on what was necessary instead. I thought there would be time later. Later to travel. Later to sit and think. Later to have long conversations without checking the clock. Later to be fully present with the people I loved. Later became a habit. Later became a promise I kept making to myself and never keeping. The years passed quietly. That's the part no one warns you about. There wasn't a single moment where I felt my life slipping away. It was more like water slowly leaking from a cup I assumed was full. My children grew up. They needed me less. I was proud of them, truly. But when they left, I realized how much of my identity had been built around being needed. Without that, there was a hollow space I didn't know how to fill. My marriage changed too. We were polite, familiar. We knew each other's schedules and habits, but not always each other's thoughts. We talked about logistics more than feelings. By the time I noticed, it felt too late to reopen those doors. We had learned how to coexist, not how to connect. I don't blame him. I don't blame myself either, not exactly. We both assumed there would be time to fix what wasn't urgent. We were wrong. There were moments, small ones. Invitations I declined because I was tired. Conversations I rushed because there was something else to do. Feelings I swallowed because they were inconvenient. None of them seemed important at the time. That's how regret works. It doesn't announce itself. It waits. In my 50s, I lost my mother. Not suddenly, slowly. I sat by her bed and watched someone who had always seemed unmovable grow small and fragile. Before she died, she told me she wished she had been less worried all the time, that she had spent too many years bracing for things that never happened. I nodded. I held her hand. And then I went back to my life and worried anyway. I thought awareness was enough. It isn't. Knowing something doesn't change you unless you act on it. And action requires courage I often didn't have. My husband died when I was 69. A heart attack. Quick. No dramatic goodbyes. One moment he was there, the next he wasn't. We had argued the night before about something small. I don't even remember what. That detail stays with me more than it should. After the funeral, the house felt enormous. Not just empty, but loud in its emptiness. I realized how many things I had postponed saying. How many questions I never asked. How much of our life had been built on assumptions instead of conversations? Grief has a way of clearing the noise. It strips things down. You see your life for what it is, not what you told yourself it was. That was my turning point, though I didn't call it that then. I just knew something had ended, and it wasn't only his life. Since then, I've had a lot of quiet, more than I ever imagined having. Quiet gives you time to think, whether you want it or not. It brings memories back without asking permission. I think about the woman I was at 40, rushing through her days, convinced that being busy meant being important. I want to tell her to slow down, but I know she wouldn't listen. She was afraid that if she stopped moving, everything would fall apart. I see now that some things needed to fall apart, or at least be questioned. Here's what I know at 78. Sitting in this body that doesn't cooperate the way it used to, surrounded by photos of people who have their own lives now. You don't get extra time for being responsible. You don't get rewarded for postponing joy. Life doesn't keep a tally and hand you a prize at the end for endurance. The days you rush through are still your life. The conversations you half listened to are still your relationships. The years you spend waiting for the right moment are still your years. I used to think presence was something you could practice later, when things calmed down. But things don't calm down on their own. You decide what matters, or the world decides for you. I wish I had sat longer at the table after dinner, asked more questions without checking the time, taken more walks without a purpose, said what I felt before it hardened into silence. I wish I had allowed myself to be a little less useful and a little more alive. If this is advice, it's not the kind you put on a card. It's simple and uncomfortable. Pay attention to what you're postponing, especially if you keep telling yourself it's not urgent. Tell people how they matter to you while they can still hear it. Don't assume they know. Love doesn't stay understood without being spoken. Stop measuring your life by productivity. No one at the end wishes they had answered more emails or kept the house cleaner. They wish they had been less guarded. Let yourself change. The version of you that got you here might not be the one that gets you where you want to go. That's not failure. That's being human. And don't wait to feel ready. Ready is a feeling that comes after action, not before. I waited for certainty most of my life. It never arrived. I don't say this with bitterness. There is gratitude here too. I loved. I was loved. I built something. That counts. But so do the quiet losses. So does the loneliness that comes from choices made slowly, without noticing. If you're listening to this and thinking you still have time, you're probably right, but not as much as you think. Time feels generous until it isn't. I'm not afraid of dying. What still catches in my chest is how ordinary the end feels. No grand summary. Just the understanding that this was it, and it was made of small moments that deserved more care. If this meant something to you, hold on to it gently, not as pressure, just as awareness. I'm 78 years old. This is what I have left to offer. Not certainty, just honesty, earned a little too late. Thanks for watching my video. Subscribe, like, and share.